Hey guys, welcome back to Ranger Survival and Fieldcraft. I'm Andrew, and what I have for you today is Military Survival Possibles 10. Stand by. Surgical razor here. You ever wonder what mouse embryo tastes like? You're about to find out. Hey guys, make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. It really helps me out. I appreciate it. Thanks. Alright guys, welcome back. We're going to go over my military survival tin and demonstrate some of the skills with this tin and the items that are inside. Now I would argue that the survival tin itself, while we could survive with it, it is really more of a possibles tin because we're probably never going to be without our main kit, or at least have some sort of kit with us. But with the items inside here, you'll notice there's not a lot of room. So we're not going to fit a lot of items inside here that can handle things like large injuries or traumatic injuries to the body. We're not going to be able to land navigate as precisely as we would if we had a good map, compass, a protractor, pen and paper to be able to land navigate. And then the signal items in here are rather small, and so we have to improvise with this kit and then our main kit to make things happen out in a survival situation. Now, I've used survival tins for a long time. Some containers were larger when I first started out, some were smaller like Altoids tins, and I've even put survival items in small chew cans or dip cans and jumped those out of aircraft with me, so at least I had a few items available to attempt to catch some game or fish out during field exercises if the opportunity arose. Now, as part of any survival kit, especially military kits where we have just our small survival tin, what's in our pockets, and then maybe just a base kit of those 5 things that are hardest to recreate off the landscape. It's a good acronym to remember when you need to improvise for your situation, and that is DICSE. D-I-C-S-E. DICSE. Now, the D stands for determine. Determine your needs. What do you need? Figure out exactly what you need. I stands for inventory. Inventory everything you have, to include clothing, anything within arm's reach, all your kit, and then natural materials from the landscape and or trash that you come across. And then C is consider. Consider all the options that you have available to you. S, that 4th letter, is select. Select the course of action you're going to go with. And then that 5th letter is E, execute. Execute that course of action. You can flex left or right, or flexecute as we call it in the military, but stick with your game plan and continue making tweaks here or there to make that improvisation work for you in a survival scenario. Now, I would argue that we're never going to be without our most basic survival items, especially if we're going into a place with rough terrain and we're prepared ahead of time. Things like some sort of water container and then a metal nesting cup. We have our survival knife, way to start fire, in this case just that small ferro rod, and then cordage or paracord, and then that last thing is our poncho, which all our gear is sitting on. Now, speaking of gear in our survival tin that can go in our pocket, I had a question about that water crossing we did a couple videos ago where we turn our gear into a flotation device and use it to safely cross a water obstacle. The question was, why don't you put your clothing inside your bag to keep it dry so you have dry clothes to change into on the far side? That's a good question. You can definitely do that in a survival situation. There are a few reasons that I don't. Number one is that every water crossing I've ever done has been in full kit or clothing, and I tend to dry out fast and wear clothing that dries out fairly fast. Plus, I'm going to exert a lot of physical activity on the opposite side to continue movement into the wood line or start a survival fire, so I'm comfortable keeping my clothes on. Number two is that the water's murky. We cannot see into it. There may be subsurface obstacles down there that could cause secondary injuries to ourselves while we're in the water, and then we get to the far side and find out we're bleeding. So our clothing provides a little bit of protection. And then number three, as far as survival philosophy, remember we have survival items in our pockets, we have them on our fighting vest, and we have them in our rucksack. We can take our fighting vest and our rucksack, turn it into a flotation device, and then have survival items in our pockets. That way, if we have to ditch our flotation device because of fast currents or enemy contact and we have to go underneath the water to swim to the far side, and we have to ditch that flotation device, we're not as naked as the day we were born on the far side with zero survival equipment. And so it was more of a tactical scenario as opposed to a survival scenario crossing that water. Although I'm sure showing up naked on the far side, reacting to enemy contact would be a significant psychological effect on the enemy. So those are just a couple of reasons why to keep your clothing on doing a water crossing like that. And then our pocket survival kit, these are items that I typically carry and recommend as part of a pocket survival kit. Of course, we have our Possibles 10 or our Survival 10, emergency whistle on some cordage that we can hang around our neck. We've got our bandana, 100% cotton, we can do a lot with that. Aviator's panel for signaling. We've got our handy dandy Ranger lighter, starting fires. We can dry that out easily on the far side after doing a water crossing. Hank of paracord or parachute cord for a variety of purposes. You got just a basic utility knife, one hand open, easy. Then our Leatherman super tool or multi-tool with a variety of functions on it for improvisation and then manipulating materials. We can do a lot with that. We got our signaling mirror to signal rescue with its foam and duct tape sheath, keep it protected and protect us. And then finally, just some sort of Mylar blanket. This is an old casualty blanket we can use for emergency shelters. But we have a lot of items we can fit in our pockets, relatively lightweight, that we can use and take with us. At least that way we have items in our pockets to survive with if we have to ditch our main kit. Alright, so here's our kit. Let's open up our survival tin and we'll take a look. Notice that on the top there are survival signals. These are actually stickers from another survival kit. You just put them together. So we can do Morse code, the POW tap code, and then large signals to alert search and rescue aircraft, and it just sticks right to the top. Got a little buck knife, good solid knife, very small, it fits inside the tin. Matches for fire starting. A Commando Saw, just rolled up from previous uses and wrapped with tape. A large nail, and the point on this nail is very sharp. We can use that for a spear. A couple of beeswax candles. Got things for escape. A bobby pin, hair barrette, and then an extra cuff key to escape restraints. LED flashlight, 3 different settings. Kevlar cordage. This is very strong material. It's about 200-pound tensile strength, very small, and this is just a small hank, but this is 25 feet of Kevlar cordage. Snare wire, 24 gauge. Highly recommend you cut it up to 12 to 14-inch sections prior to going to the field, so that way you're not out here banging rocks together cutting wire. Different medicines. We've got things for headaches, diarrhea, and indigestion in here, plus antibiotic ointment. 32-ounce Whirl-Pad bag. Razor blade for fine carving, processing game. Sewing kit, razor blade, needle, safety pins. The needles are already preloaded and we have one large needle. Another sachet, it's just a fishing kit. Again, razor blade, fishing line, sinkers, and hooks. Cotton balls and Vaseline for tinder. These are just more razor blades. Another whistle for signaling, and then a small button compass for direction finding and land navigation. Then we've got a series of band-aids. A Fresnel Lens for firelighting using the sun's rays. Another surgical razor blade. Can't have too many of those. We have a mirror. This is from a camo compact. We can use it to signal aircraft or rescuers. A small ferro rod, and the back of our knife spine is 90 degrees. So you can actually strike sparks with it. Too easy. And then the last thing that's in here is a mini Chemlight, typically used for fishing. This lasts about 6 hours. We could take this, crack it, and then use it with our map to read at nighttime because it emits a low light. We can use that for land navigation during the night or just to have an extra light with us for whatever we need. Now, as part of a military survival tent, we should always have items in there that we can use for escape purposes. Things to pick locks and then cut through restraints. Something like a zip tie. Now, we can use the Kevlar cordage inside of our tent to actually saw through these zip ties, but there is another expedient option if we don't have that Kevlar cordage readily available. So our restraints are on. All we have to do is get our shoelaces. We should have paracord for shoelaces, which can saw through these zip ties. After we untie those knots, we take these shoelaces, put one through our restraint, and up to the opposite side. And then we simply tie those two shoelaces together. It helps for this method if you tie one shoelace closer to its own boot and leave the other one nice and long, because then all we have to do is simply bicycle kick until our zip ties are broken. And then for demonstration's sake, here is our Kevlar cordage right here, very thin green stuff. And here's our zip tie. Simply step on that zip tie as if it were on our hands. Put that cordage through and then simply saw. And it's the same thing. We cut those restraints with just a little bit of our Kevlar cord that we can hide in our clothing and get out when the need arises. So I've got a length of red 550 cord between these two small trees kept taut for this next demonstration. We saw how our shoelaces or our 550 cord can cut through our restraints, as well as how our Kevlar cordage can do the same thing. But I bet you didn't know that 550 cord can actually cut through itself. All we have to do is take the piece of cord we want to cut and keep it taut, like between these two trees, and then grab another section that we can use to actually cut with. And we simply put it on the opposite side and loop it over, get a good grip, and wherever we want to cut it, we just pull, hold it in place, and begin sawing back and forth. And now that 550 cord is cut. Good to go. And that key is, just in case you find yourself handcuffed with the double lock on. Most handcuffs like this. Now we can't move the actual ratchet, so we can actually use this to get out, or we can use our hair barrette acting as a shim to defeat the double lock, and then shim the ratchet, get around that, and do the same thing to the other side. And we're out of those handcuffs with just a simple hair barrette. And with our nail here, we can make a simple spear using this as our spearhead. Grab our survival knife. We just need a good staff, relatively straight. It's similar to how we would do with like a frog gig. We just take off material to get a fine point. Something like that doesn't need to be too fine, because we're going to baton that out. You simply baton it down a little bit while it's split, and then we're going to quarter it, so we split it again. That way, similar to a frog gig, we have those 4 tines, but we're not going to spread them out. Grab our nail spearhead and our spear tip, and we're just going to fit this in here as best as possible. And we just work it into where it's comfortable. We got about 1 inch sitting down right here. Grab that cordage, whatever it is, and we can do our whip. Simply create a bite in that cordage, then lay it on top. See, we got a long end, short end. Just grab that long end and begin wrapping around the spear and around our whip. Then once we get to the end, take our excess, simply put it through our loop where we created that bite. Grab our Leatherman, grab our whip, and just pull it down nice and tight. We can get rid of that excess cordage if we need to, and or leave it. And now we've got a good nail head spear. Now, let's say you didn't have a nice nail spear point as part of your military survival tin, and all you have is just a normal old spear. There's a field expedient method to fire harden the tip of the spear into a nice fine point. We find a log just like this one, carve a little run in it with our knife, and then using just downward pressure like we would do with a fire plow starting method, we just rub back and forth faster and faster until we see smoke, and we can just rotate, rub again, continue to rotate, and fire harden the outside of our field expedient spear. We have just a nice fire hardened point now we can use to get game or as a defensive tool. Now for improvisation, I love the Super Tool 300 because it's got a variety of tools on it and we can use it for a variety of things. One of my favorite things is just creating simple deadfall traps to go after game. And if you remember last time, we created the promontory, and we're going to do it again in an attempt to go after some field mice. Just make a cut on one side, okay, about halfway through on one side, flip it over, directly over, where you can feel that cut. And we're going to make another cut about an inch or so, maybe 2 inches above that, on the exact opposite side of our original cut. It's right about here. So we've got our 2 cuts in our promontory, or what will be our promontory deadfall. And now all we have to do is just give it a little pressure. And you can see it's lifting up for us. It's going to give us that nice square edge. Flip it over once we have one side done, and this should only take one. Okay, there we go. We got our 2 halves. Take out our survival knife and shave off one. So it's like that. Then we just grab some cordage and use it and set up our deadfall. We got more of that Kevlar cord from our kit. We're just going to make a simple arbor knot, 1 overhand knot. Tighten it down. We want to leave a little bit of tag right there above the knot so we can grab it easily. And then now all we're doing is making a slip knot. We need to ensure that our tag end comes out the top the same way as our standing end. So something like that. We tighten this down, and it can be all the way up on our stop knot. That's fine. And grab the base of our trigger stick and our Kevlar cord, and we just put that right over top and around the base so it's nice and tight. Now we've got our trigger set, our pointy end, remember, is going to go on top, and then our square end is going to be what's sitting on bottom, and that point faces away as we set it, so that way when it triggers it pushes itself away and that rock falls. What we really want to do is find a small stick. We can create another arbor knot on the opposite side of our Kevlar cordage and simply attach it to the center of our anchor stick. And this is what's going to sit behind our rock on this side. So just pull it up, set our rock in place and our cordage, and we should be able to angle this fairly well enough. And if our cord, I can already tell the cordage is not going to be strong enough, or it's not going to be taut enough anyway. We need it tight in here. This is where we apply our bait. So all we have to do is just simply lay down our trigger, lift up our rock just a little bit, and roll the excess slack out of our cordage, and then retry. That's good. Alright, so we're set. Here's our trigger right here. There's our deadfall trap. The animal comes in right through here, hits our trigger, and it's caught. Alright, so real talk. Been out here setting up traps before and then reconning all of this area, especially down near the water and then up on this hill behind you guys. I've had trail cams out watching what I think are dens and confirmed that there's a lot of critters around here. I've seen everything from mice to trade rats to snakes and then to larger animals like possums out here in this area, either going into or out of those dens or occupying those dens. So set up a deadfall. I've actually got one right in front of you guys, right in front of me, in between us. It is not too far from a den out here. Baited it, and we use the same techniques for our promontory deadfall. Carve that deadfall and use the Kevlar cordage as our trigger with our anchor stick, and then a weight or this rock acting as the deadfall to collapse over the animal. And we've got something underneath. Ooh, she flat. We want to use our pliers. There's something other than our hands to pick up our kill. From what I understand of the area, mice and trade rats do have a lot of bacteria and stuff that's on the skin, and so we want to handle this as little as possible with our hands, but we can take it back, make a fire, and char the outside, and then prepare to clean and cook this animal for survival food. Alright, so we got our mouse for our survival food. Now, that Kevlar cordage that we have is also very good at other cordage tasks, one being the string for a bow drill. Now, the trick with using Kevlar cordage as our bow drill string is to find a bow that's got some good give in it, a nice green stick in this case, because that Kevlar cordage is a static cordage, meaning that it's not dynamic, it's not going to stretch on us. So we have to have a little bit of give in here like we would with paracord if we were using that as our string, but we're going to make up for that flexibility in a green bow for our bow drill. Not the easiest thing to do with Kevlar cordage. You kind of got to treat it like natural cordage and keep that bow at an angle so the cord's not sitting on top of itself and burns through, but it works. And we got an ember using Kevlar cordage for the string in our bow drill. All right, the kukri makes good feather sticks. We got a nice pile in here to get our fire going. That'll act as our tinder. Then we've got kindling and a little bit of fuel over here, ready to start our fire. It's not going to take a big fire to cook this animal down. Now to cook the mouse, we're going to get the fire going first and then put the mouse into the fire to char the outside. We want to make sure we use our Leatherman and not our hands to touch the mouse, because mice sometimes have viruses or bacteria or pathogens on the exterior in their fur, and we don't want to take a chance of touching that with our hands, especially since we don't have a way to clean our hands very well out here, and take a chance in getting sick. So we'll use our Leatherman to transport and move the mouse in and out of the fire. Once the mouse is cooked, we've got our handy dandy cutting board right here, and then one of the surgical razor blades from our military tin we can use to process the animal. At that point we can remove all the guts and all the icky nasty stuff from inside, and then put the mouse back in the fire and cook it until it is well done. In a survival situation, cook everything until it is well done. That way we protect ourselves and we avoid taking a chance of getting sick by eating uncooked meat. Use that handy dandy Ranger lighter from our pocket kit. Get this going. Alright, here's what's left of our mouse. You can see some of the guts came out. That's alright. We'll clean it out. And pull out our surgical razor here. Pulling it down. And we'll just knock all the guts out. See, the liver doesn't look bad. Oh no, this one had babies. That little pink thing right there, that is a baby mouse. It's just the way it goes sometimes. Another benefit of having a razor blade, now we can put this guy back in, and this razor blade we can toss in the fire to clean out. So to make sure to keep everything clean, we can put this razor blade in the fire or above the fire. Fire will burn everything away. And to use an old tent peg here to hold it up over the fire. We want to make sure we keep it away from our canteen cup so it can't drip in, but as long as we boil, we should be good. Oh, there's two little mice in there. Make some coffee while we're here. I'm thinking that we have two little babies. Let me just go ahead and throw them in the embers here. And we'll call that a twofer. One little guy. Okay. You ever wonder what mouse embryo tastes like? You're about to find out. Like chicken. Pretty good. Number two, Alright, there's our mouse. You can see right here, a little heart. And this guy is well done. Well done. So, let's eat it while it's still hot. Gross. That's bones and all. Hey, you guys like seafood? I apologize to everybody that gets sick by this. Wash it down with our coffee. Now with the remainder of our mouse, all the guts and everything, all the entrails and all that bad stuff, we can take this and actually use it for other traps around here. So don't let anything go to waste, especially if you get an animal in a deadfall like we did. We use every bit of it. We can use this stuff for traps and bait or for fishing and other things to go after more game. Alright guys, I hope you found lunch as delicious as I did. But that does it for this video. A very down and dirty video on military survival, Possibles 10, making things possible as an augmentation to our survival kit, what we have in our pockets, and then what we have as a basic kit in our assault bag or our rucksack. But there's a lot of good stuff in here and a lot of tips and tricks, and I hope you took something away from this video with some field craft and some survival skills. And I really hope you did enjoy lunch. But that does it for me in this video. I hope you guys like this video. If you did like this video, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, leave me a comment in the comment section. I always appreciate your feedback. I want to thank you guys for everything you do for me, for this channel, for your likes, your views, your subscriptions, your comments, your feedback, and your shares. And I'll be back with another video as soon as I can, guys. Thanks.